Hello, I'm Joel Blackford with Beth Hesed Sabbath Fellowship. We are virtual, sorry. We're based out of St. Paul, Minnesota. The phone number does work if you'd like to contact me. We do the philosophy of eschatology, what you need to know, your reality, our existence. We're in the end times, we're in Revelation times, people, and we try to solve a little bit of it each week for you. We're trying to solve the Aurora Borealis this week because we're seeing increased storms. We're seeing other indications that aurora is a sign that things are going the wrong direction. So we'll look at that, and we'll also look at madness. So that's towards the end of the video, and you'll see it in the Bible in very interesting ways. So first of all, back on March 12th of 2023, we had a kill shot. It went the other direction from the Earth, so the sun burped it out. You can see that right now. There's the burp. And so it was similar to what happened in 1859. So that's the Carrington event. So on the left-hand side, the American Thinker talks about it, and then I cut and paste from them on the other side. The main thing is we dodged an apocalyptic event, people, okay? And so they marked it, and then they said, but now we're noticing, a G4 storm is really causing huge aurora borealis. So what's going on? So the storm that we experienced that went the other direction was 10 to 100 times more powerful than 1859. That's a kill shot. Okay, and so fortunately, the sun was facing away from the Earth. It's a warning, and so that's just as we were heading into Purim, and then so basically we would have fried. The whole system would have fried. We would have been dead within these few years. About 6 to 7 billion of us would have died. So now we come back and we see this light duty G4 storm, and we see aurora borealis like we've never seen before. It was gorgeous. It was reds and purples and blues and greens, lots of greens. That's always common. And then some pinks. Pinks mean it's going down deep. So that was Thursday night, March 24th. So why? It's the thinning magnetosphere, and that is biblical. So we'll get there and we'll show you that. Is it a sign of the sixth seal? Yes, it really is. So we do the philosophy of the end of days. We try not to twist the Bible. We give you prophecy. We show you the news. We try to relate it to what's going on. What I'm trying to link today for you so that you can see it is that coronal mass ejection that occurred that went the other direction, or others that are coming, more activity from the sun as we go into the uptick in solar energy and solar activity, that should kick off more aurora borealis, which would kick off more tornadoes and also more earthquakes. Now, I can't prove the earthquakes yet. We're only a few days into this, and so I'm recording on Sunday. By Monday, we'll probably have some larger earthquakes. But the main thing is there are these 11-year cycles of the sun. Well, we're heading towards an uptick. By 2025, 2026, we should hit the peak. And so you will notice more activity, but here's the problem. That's the upside of it. The downside is the magnetosphere, the ozone layer, oh, I don't know, Van Allen belts, you could call it. Okay, that area, and it's not the rakia, people. The rakia is more to protect us from God because He's holy and pure. So that would be the rakia, which would be the firmament. No, these are just it's the ozone layer. Okay, magnetosphere, and so it does protect us from UV and solar particles and solar waves and things like that. This was a lighter duty storm, but it was heavy duty in terms of aurora, and then we'll see the repercussions as more storms hit, whether they're tornadoes or earthquakes. Okay, so let's match this up with the Bible so you can see that right away. There will appear signs, semeion in the Greek, 4592, in the sun, moon, and stars. That happens to be the second time that those are listed in that particular section of Luke 21. And on the earth, nations, goyim, will be in anxiety. That's aporia, which is interesting, and bewilderment at the sound and surge of the sea. And that is not hydata. So that should be the waters. It should be seas, yeah. As people faint with fear, that's phobu, which is like phobia, G5401, at the prospect of what is overtaking the world. For the powers of heaven will be shaken. That's the third time that we talk about that in this particular Luke 21. So we know this is coming. And then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud in tremendous power and glory. So just before he arrives, we're going to see these signs in the sun, moon, and stars. We're going to have anxiety within the Gentiles, bewilderment, sound and surge of the sea, faint with fear, prospect of what's overtaking the world, powers in heaven. Now that could be fallen angels too, up in the heavens being shaken like a bowling ball hitting pins, but that also could be the strange Aurora Borealis. You could see more of those types of things and other weird signs up in the heavens. Wait until you get to Revelation chapter 8 and all the things coming from the cosmos and hitting us. So the main thing is, beam me up, Scotty. Our magnetic shield is down. So you know from Star Trek, he always had to have their shield so that they were hit by the Klingons or whatever else, and they could deflect those particular weapons. Well, in this case, our shield is down, and that's the magnetosphere. So when only a G-class magnetic storm hits, it's the strongest in 6 years, but it's not that big of a storm, people. And so it hit, and it came in through the poles, and then you see the Aurora Borealis, but then you start to notice the other things. So that was March 23rd, 24th, and then you saw the auroras all over the place. Now, for a couple of days, the Earth has been awaiting the solar winds that were released from a massive coronal hole. Not even the CME, it was a hole, okay? And so it kicks out solar wind. In the atmosphere of the sun, there were some concerns that the solar storm event would be so close to the vernal equinox, spring equinox, that would give rise to an extremely powerful storm. As it turns out, the fears were not unfounded. Yes, it was bigger because of the equinox. Yesterday night, March 23rd to the 24th, huge amounts of solar winds entered the upper atmosphere of the Earth through the crack open in the planet's magnetic field and sparked severe G class 4 class magnetic storm, the strongest storm in 6 years, and surprisingly, no forecaster picked up on this development. Nobody knew about this. Nobody expected it. Everybody's watching it. They don't understand the severity either. They're all saying, oh, it's just the sun, no big deal. No, this is a dropping of our shields, people. We need to be aware of that. It's biblical. I'll get to Isaiah in a little while. You'll just have to wait and hear it later on. So the solar uptick through 2025. So this is an article from KXLY, probably Spokane. And so they are describing the solar activity, the 11-year solar cycle, and then they're saying it looks like this is going to be like this, increasing through 2025. The problem is the shields are going down very, very quickly. So they had, the G4, G5 storm, and hopefully you can't see that. I'm sick and tired of Microsoft telling me notices right now. The sun goes through an 11-year cycle of activities of sunspots. The solar maximum is expected around July of 2025. I hope you're not getting all of these silly messages that it's having problems. Oh, goodness gracious, Microsoft, leave me alone. So anyway, hopefully you can't see that when I'm clicking. So the main thing is the poles are under heavy bombardment by solar particles. The aurora forms further south. And yes, we have seen it further into all states. I'll show you that slide in a minute here. The currents created from the Earth's surface during severe solar storms and then grid overload. So you'll notice power issues across the nation. They don't report it right away, but just keep that in mind. So it's going to get worse. So once again, we're seeing this storm further south. We're going to see, instead of greens only, which is light, we're going to see some of the reds and some pinks and things like that. So it'll drive down deep and hit other gases. I'll explain that in just a second. So this is from Ben Davidson from Suspicious Observers. The KP hits 7. Solar storms of this magnitude increase emotional instability and decreasing cognitive function. Going to be a fun evening on Twitter. Yeah, people go crazy. Okay, so we want to talk about madness at the end. Why does this happen? During storms like this, the induced electricity and particle bombardment increase, and it affects the hippocampus to decrease cognitive function, while stimulating the fear, panic, terror, anxiety portions of the brain. These storms also impact cardiac function, autoimmune disorders, migraines, seizures. We can also expect stronger upper-level jet activity in the atmosphere. Impact on volcanoes, here it is, and earthquakes are due 1 to 4 days later. So it is the 26th today for me, and that was the 24th when this was recorded with the magnetic disturbance. And so we need to wait it out. I should be recording tomorrow or the next day, but I don't feel like it. I feel like recording today. So once again, these are the states that watched Aurora Borealis. It's very rare. I mean, in 1859, they saw it this far south, but really that's pretty rare for them to see aurora, and we saw it in Minnesota. I saw it slightly. The problem is I have light pollution where I live. I live in the Twin Cities. So because our electromagnetosphere, the ozone layer, has been disappearing since 1859 and now is fading faster, we assumed it dropped by about 25%. So it's lost a lot of power to be able to protect us. There are now holes in the ozone layer called anomalies. As the sun increases its activities during this normal 11-year phase, the ozone layer continues to shrink. Moderate storms like this one will become horrific, causing extra winds, storms, heart attacks, madness by solar particle penetrations. And so these types of storms will probably become more commonplace over the next few years. Just get used to it. So once again, how auroras work, the particles come in, they go in through the poles, it's electric. And then once again, the colors, the red are up high, the blue are down a little bit lower, the green are standard. You see those, that's hitting the oxygen. So red is hitting the oxygen too. Blue is nitrogen, but then pink is hitting low nitrogen, okay? So when you see the pink and some whites in there too. So some of my friends from Minnesota saw some white and pink, and so that's low, that's nitrogen, and that means it's penetrating deeply. Okay, the calm after the storm so that's the weird thing. I mean, we just saw this and now it's calm out there, which is weird. By the way, I've had sleep issues for about 3 days here, so go figure. So March 24th, big night for auroras last night. Sun activity was low, but wow, what a night for auroras. Yeah. So 21 continuous hours during this G4 storm. So once again, the colors, the composition of the gases of the Earth's atmosphere, it depends on what you get to see in colors, the altitude where the aurora occurs, the density of the atmosphere, the level of the energy involved. Green is the most common. Yep. Pink or dark red is nitrogen, as I mentioned. Red is collision with oxygen again. And then blue and purple, hydrogen and helium molecules can produce blue and purple auroras. So it's the different gases, and it's electric. Okay, so strong thermal emission velocity enhancement. So what's that? STEVE is the acronym. And so it is not an aurora, it's a thin line, but it pops up like auroras. It's ribbons in the skies. So get ready to start seeing those too. So you'll see the skirt-like effects of the Aurora Borealis. You'll also see STEVEs. As things get closer to solar maximum, you'll see more STEVEs and more. You'll see all sorts of anomalies. Get ready for it. And as I mentioned with Luke 21, just expect to see these things. So the shields were down for almost 24 hours, allowing solar wind to penetrate and the storm to build to a category G4. Yeah, so that's what happened. We didn't anticipate that. So it's going to get worse over time. So if you're an aurora watcher, this is that time. Okay. That's from Space Weather. And so what's going to happen to you? Well, you're going to have problems sleeping like I have the last 3-4 days. You're going to get migraines. It's electric, okay? You'll have depression. Who knows why Hillary Clinton has what she has. You'll also have seizures, more of those, struggles with autoimmune diseases, and then terror, okay? So that's what happens, and that's biblical, okay? So you'll see more wind as a result of it and more tornadic experiences. And then now this is interesting. This is strong winds buffet region affecting airline flights and electrical service to tens of thousands, and that is the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. So the winds have been worse on the East Coast lately. And so this type of a storm, believe it or not, affects the winds. And so you'll have some storms happen right away after that. Here's 11 135-mile-per-hour tornadoes hit Mississippi, 26 dead. That's as of today, the 26th. And then this is an early report with 23 dead. But yeah, 11 of those twisters, one was a mile wide. They cut out a 100-mile wide swath across the state. It's too bad. Pray for the poor people of Mississippi. That was horrible. They were destroyed. So here's the California storms, and you can see them building up and circling and hitting California. They're getting the rains and the snows, and they're getting the storms. We had a tornado in Montecito, I think it was, just the other day here. So they're getting relentlessly battered. This is Zero Hedge talking about it. And so the last 30 days, the entire state of California, with the exception of far southern Cal, have been above average in terms of rains and winds and storms and everything like that. So it's been busy. And there's a little Dorothy thing off to the side here. When there's a tornado watch, put on your ruby red slippers. So be ready to go. So it's going to get worse. You'll see more earthquakes as a result of that. expect to see those. I can't give you the evidence of that yet, but this is Cron 4 from 2022 saying they're expecting another Bay Area earthquake to shake. And this is an article on the other side from Earthquake Prediction from Twitter saying there's a 7.0 predicted for the San Francisco Bay Area in the next 24 to 48 hours. So we'll see what happens. But yes, earthquakes should start to occur as a result of a G4 storm, especially with no protection from our magnetosphere right now. Here's a 5.6 earthquake in Iran, leaves 239 injured, and that was Friday, March 24th, during the time of the Aurora Borealis. And then this is old, but I just want you to see it. It's the report is March 22nd of 2023 from the Jerusalem Post, but it's been occurring for a while now. Africa is splitting into two as a new ocean forms. So you're seeing this as it cuts through the Eastern African Rift. It's near Ethiopia, which is the eastern side of Africa, obviously. It emerged in 2005, but it's getting worse. And so you'll notice more of these things occurring. It's biblical. You can expect those things to occur. And I'll give you the verse in just a minute here. Seismic changes and earthquakes to next. So this is a man from the Netherlands that's saying, because of the planet convergence, March 2 through 5, and also even now, because it's actually some of them are converging now, the 25th through I think the 30th of March. You'll see more seismic activity, possibly even a massive earthquake, according to this Hograbits person from the Netherlands. And this is an article from Science Alert, and they're talking about the conjunction of Jupiter, Mercury, Venus, Uranus, and Mars set to align in an arc formation on those nights of March 25th through the 30th. So we'll see. That usually is a precursor for more earthquakes. Once again, these are the earthquakes. They're not that big. Philippine Sea, 5.6, 5.4 in Chile. Chile gets hit a lot. New Zealand, 5.3. And then here's some of the biggest earthquakes ever. And so it kind of gives you an idea between 8.6, which would be the 10th most, and then 9.5 back in. And look at the dates too, 1960, 1964, 2011. That one was Japan, 9.1, yes. Okay, 2004 was a 9.1 in Indonesia. So just note them in case we start seeing larger earthquakes. Just be aware. Okay, now I'm arguing that the anomaly down in the southern Atlantic area that's listed on the left-hand side from ESA is a sign of Isaiah 24. So let's go through it again. I've gone through it many times now. Terror, pit, and trap are upon you, you who are living on the earth. He who flees at the sound of terror will fall into the pit. He who climbs up out of the pit will be caught in the trap. For the windows above, I'm saying that's the magnetosphere, the ozone layer, have been opened, and the earth's foundations shake. The earth cracks, breaks open. Those are earthquakes. The earth crumbles to pieces. The earth trembles and totters. The earth staggers to and fro like a drunk, sways back and forth like a watchman's shelter. Its transgression weighs heavily upon it, and it will fall and not rise again. When that day comes, Adonai will punish. Technically, these are the soldiers, the fallen angels of the Marome in the Marome, which is an area just above our heads. Okay, and the kings of the earth also that are here on the earth. So that's Isaiah 24, 17 through 21. Very interesting section. Okay, so now we're going to go into the prophecy side. Over the years, I've followed these guys the most closely. Dudeman, Wilkerson, Groover. They all state that Jeremiah 51, Revelation 17, 18 is either America or like America. Dudeman the most, where he said, absolutely, it's America. And we're going to go in and show you some Jeremiah 51, just so you can see that. But just to go through it again, Wilkerson is predicting a recession, starting in Germany, then going to Japan, then to America, labor pains, flood of filth, we're seeing that, rebellion in the home, a persecution madness against the truly spirit-filled Christians who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and then an urgent message for 2009, 1,000 fires in New York City. Major cities across America will experience riots and blazing fires, earth-shattering calamity. I don't know what that means. But it's the word of, it is God's wrath and in judgment against us. Raging sins of America and the nations. Timing, I don't know. And he doesn't know. So anyway, the main thing is Dudeman is saying that Jeremiah 51 is talking about us. And I'm going to give you a new word that's kind of interesting in terms of not this verse, but the next one. What I want you to be able to see is that when we're talking about, well, I'll give you the word halal, and hallelujah comes from that. But remember, like shalom could be peace and wonderful, but it can also mean a complete destruction. So shalom has a dual meaning. Hallelujah has a complete meaning too. I mean, a duality for meaning. Halal could mean madness and a worshiping of the madness, or it could mean praising God. God knows that you can go both directions with it. So whether you trust in Wilkerson, Dudeman, or Groover, just keep in mind that Dudeman's favorite verses that he cited were Jeremiah 51 and then Revelation 17:18. Michael Boldea is still with us. He's his grandson. And basically, he's seen Babylon was a golden cup in the Lord's hand, making all the earth drunken. The nations drank of her wine. Therefore, the nations went mad. And that's hallelujah, which is a weird statement there. The word mad is halal. And so we would sing that during the festivals, Psalms 113 through 118. Every time we have a Jewish Moedim festival, like Passover and all of the other fun days, Sukkot. Yom Kippur is not a fun day. It's a fasting day and you're somber. But the other days you would be singing these halal psalms. And they did it during Yeshua's time too. Okay, so basically, accordingly, the drinking of America's cup is causing the woke faithful worldwide to sing the praises to their Lord of the flies. It's a bright light of praise for their God. I never saw this before. That's a halal. There is within the halal term, there is this light, whether it's God's light or it's Hillel, which is from Isaiah 14. Do you remember that? It's called Lucifer in the Latin. And so Satan is kind of named Hillel, just so you're aware. Okay, so the golden cup and then the prostitute in Revelation 17, okay, which he says is America. Now, one of my friends is John Haller, great guy. I pestered him yesterday or the day before. I said, you really need to talk about the Aurora Borealis. And he did, so that was nice that he did that. My comments to him were, we experienced a relatively mild solar storm. It produced a huge Aurora Borealis. People need to talk about it. The pagans noticed it. The Christians really didn't notice it. They aren't trained to look for this. Some people were experiencing heart attacks, joint pain, depression, heightened proton bombardment was causing these problems. And so then also it spawned tornadoes, windstorms, bad weather, followed by earthquakes at some point in time. And so I've mentioned the Carrington event and some of the other things, and we've lost our ozone layer. That's the problem. It's the ozone layer. Now, my comment is on Saturday, I listened to Jan Markell for about 2 seconds and realized they weren't going to talk about anything. They were going to talk about heaven. Okay, we just had Aurora Borealis. The pagans are talking. The Christians go, we don't know what you're talking about. We have no idea. Well, that's because of the doctrine of imminence. It colors your presentations. Now, John is a great guy. He doesn't have a board that says you can't talk about it because of the doctrine of imminence. So he will talk about things, okay? And God bless him for that. And I will too. So in the case of the aurora, it's biblical, and you should be aware of that, and it's good for you to be aware of what it means, because we're called to look up. Well, there are beautiful reasons, like aurora, to do so. So we're in the birth pangs. We're not in the tribulation or the great tribulation. We're probably in seal 4, but we're definitely in seal 3. And so you'll notice the food prices going up. You're not noticing the death yet, but there will be death caused from seal 4 different types of deaths. And you're noticing aurora right now, and I'm trying to give you a reason for why we're seeing it and why it's severe now with the magnetosphere thinning. You're preparing to have clean garments for a wedding. I don't know if it's Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur or Sukkot during a given year, but you need clean garments. That means repentance and faith. So get on that. You can do that. Be blessed. Good night.